We're going to look at the choose function in this tutorial, and the choose function allows you to look up text, formulas, numbers and references. It can be used instead of the if function, and it can also be used combined with the if function in if statements. The choose function uses an index number, and this is 1, 2, 3 or 4. It's an integer to select a value based on the index number. So what you do is you allocate values, or you allocate an action to an integer. And once that integer is selected, it then goes and carries out that particular task or returns that particular value. So let's jump into Excel and have a quick look. So here we are in Excel, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a working example of the choose function. So I have some tables of data here. I have a selling price table with scenario 1, scenario 2 and scenario 3. And I have a unit sold table with a scenario 1, scenario 2 and scenario 3. And what I want to do is, by changing the scenario number here in this cell, in the criteria cell, I want to pull in the correct selling price, the correct units, and be able to calculate the revenue. So what you could do is you could use an if statement, and you could say if this cell here is number 3, then you want 95, and then put that into a nested if statement. So if it's number 2, you want 110, and if it's number 1, you want 100. If not, you want blank. So that would be a pretty big nested if statement, and we can greatly reduce the size of that if statement by using the choose function. So let's have a look at the choose function. So chooses a value or action to perform from a list of values based on an index number. And this criteria cell here being the index number. So the first thing it's looking for is the index number, which we have in our criteria cell. Then it's looking for value when it's 1. Well, when it's 1, we want scenario 1, so we want 100. When it's 2, we want the selling price for scenario 2. And value when it's 3, we want the selling price for number 3. We don't have a number 4 and 5, but that continues if you had additional figures. And then we can press enter. And see there, it's pulled in 95. So it's looked up the third scenario in this table and returned 95. Now, if we change that to 1, it should return 100, and it does. So let's do the same for our units. So choose, and our index number is our scenario number, and value if 1. Well, this time we're pulling from our unit sold table. So when it's 1, we want scenario 1. When it's 2, we want scenario 2. And when it's 3, we want scenario 3. And then we can close that bracket. And if we multiply the two of them out, selling price multiplied by the units is going to give you the revenue for the particular scenario. We can change that now to 3, and we would have 95 multiplied by 900, which is 85,500. So that's a basic example of the choose function. You could also put in text. You have cell references there, so we're going to go back in there and just press F2. And see these cell references here, you could replace them with different text. So value if 1, you could put in inverted commas when using with text. You want, let's change it, value when 1. Let's say we want true. Value when 2. Let's say we want false. And value in 3, let's say we want maybe. Let's hit enter, and it's pulled in maybe. If we change our scenario number to 1, it'll pull in true. So you don't have to put in a cell reference was the point of that example. You could put in a text value, but you could also put in another function or formula. Let's now have a look at this table that we have down here. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the choose function to look up across different worksheets. And we have a customer, we have a customer region, we have the weight of a package going to them, and we need to calculate these shipping charges. Now, the shipping charges are dependent on the customer region, and we have table 1, table 2, and table 3 in your workbook, and they relate to region 1, region 2, and region 3. So let's have a quick look at one of them. So on our first table is region 1 shipping charges, and this breaks down by the weight. So up to 100 kilos is only going to be a fiver, from 100 to 200 is going to be a tenner, and so forth. So we have a table 2, which is a region 2 shipping charges, and table 3, which is region 3 shipping charges. So what we want to do is we want to look up the shipping charges based on the weight for the region. Well, they all have the weight in common. So it's the weight that we're actually going to look up. So we're going to start this with a lookup formula. So equals VLOOKUP. So the lookup value, well, the lookup value is going to be the weight, because the weight is common in each table. The next, it's looking for the table array. Well, we don't know what our table array is going to be, so we're going to use the choose function. So it's looking for the index number. So this is the number that we're going to index. So we're going to index this figure here. Now it's looking for value 1. So we're going to go to table 1, and we're going to highlight this table here in table 1. And I'm going to press F4 to lock it in. It's then looking for value 2. I'm going to move the screen tip up here where we can see it. So it's looking for value 2. So we'll take our table for value 2, and I'm going to press F4 to lock that in. And value of 3, let's jump to our table 3 and select our table 3, and we will lock that in as well. So we can close that bracket, and that has now brought us back to our VLOOKUP part of the formula. And we're going to press comma because we have our table array. Our column index number is going to be 2, and our range lookup is going to be approximate. We can close our bracket and we can hit enter. And it's pulled in a shipping charge of €15 for that particular customer going to that particular region. So region 3, let's just go back and verify this now. Region 3, weight of 542. So table 3, 500. So it's higher than 400, so it's 500. It's less than 600, so we go back to the 500 and it's 35. Did it pull in 35? Yes, it did. So that's the choose function, and combining the choose function with a lookup function. And the choose function can be very useful, especially if you were going to originally use nested if statements. Thank you for watching. Goodbye now.